Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Welcome in. It is Follow the Money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. This show is brought to you by DraftKings. Big 3-hour program lined up with a recap of what took place last night. College basketball, the national title game. We turn our attention to the Masters now as that begins on Thursday. Final week of the NBA as well, and great guests spread throughout this show today. And as Dan Hurley said in the postgame with Ernie Johnson after it was all over with, we run this up in here.
Yeah.
You have, you did, and you currently do. This run now for 25 years, and he is cocky. He's abrasive. If you don't like UConn, he is completely unlikable. Very brash. Doesn't care, though. And he can have that attitude when you're taking names, kicking ass and taking names like they have now for 2 consecutive years. And to put the, to fit the finishing touches on another tournament like that, Paulie, it doesn't matter. Purdue was the second or third best team all year long. They were close at halftime. And then after that, it was forget it. We'll see you later. Bye. Yeah. That was fun while it lasted.
They remind me of Floyd Mayweather, where they just take their time the first couple rounds, see what the opponent's game plan's going to be, and then they go to work on you and take you out and no problem, right? And it's just precision, and it's a no contest what it ends up being at the end. The other thing is you have to legitimately hate yourself if you weren't a part of this run, because I like to play streaks, but they made it boring and they covered every game and they weren't challenged in any game for 2 years. It's like, what are you doing? What a time to have the rollover parlay or just say, like you said yesterday, you analyze the game for 30 seconds. If that, you take UConn.
Sure.
Because they win, 15, 14, 25, 30, 17, and 31. And then last year it was 17, 13, 28, 23, 15, and 24.
So basically, if you just, and nobody would have done this, but if you did, that's a 12-team parlay that is now cashed for you on the rollover side. But I think also you could notice it early last year in the tournament, because they were so dominant to begin the season. They fell off and they came back as a 4th seed, but they were taking teams out right away last year in the tournament. And this year it's the same exact thing. I mean, what was their biggest challenge? It has to be Alabama, because the game is still tied with 12 minutes to play.
Yeah.
And that's when they eventually pulled away.
Well, how about this? 38 of their last 39 games, not against Big East teams, they've won by double digits. Maybe Patino's hating life today. St. John's gave them 2 good games.
All right.
The only time they won in single digits was when they were playing down the stretch was Big East teams, and what also happened in the Big East tournament in the semis when St. John's lost by 5. Yeah, but I would say, Alabama. How about the fact that Purdue hits 1-3?
They only took 7.
Now, come on. They're top 5 in 3-pointers. They attempted 7. They dominated the perimeter. This coaching. And you look at the team.
It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Here's why. The guards for UConn and the perimeter defense was too good. They had no chance of getting shots off last night.
Yeah.
And that was the game plan. It was clinging down low. They entered that game saying, you're going to go up against Zach Edey. If he gets his, fine, so be it. We'll adjust if we need to a little bit during the game. But our guards are too good, and we are not going to let Purdue get shots off. Forget about making threes. You're not going to take any threes. That was the second, by like a percentage point. They were the second best 3-point shooting team in the country entering the game last night. A full season, right? They had 2-3 attempts at halftime.
I know.
Where's the weakness on this team?
Oh, I thought they were in trouble at halftime. You have 30 points, and Edey has 16 of them. So no one else was involved. And then, of course, they just do what they do best, which is blitz teams in the second half. But you look at it, and it's not like Kentucky, where it's all these NBA players, and they can't even get past St. Peter's and Oakland. There's some guys that'll play professionally and in the NBA, but nothing jumps out when you. It's like, oh my God, they're so. Oh, look at Klingon, look at this, and they also were 6 of 22 from 3, so they're not great from 3, but they still body bag you every game. It's nuts.
I guess that would be the one weakness at this point, right? Because they had a handful of games where they did not shoot well, like they were not a reliable team from deep in the tournament. That's the one thing I can point at and say, yeah, maybe a weakness.
Yeah.
Where else did they have a weakness? I don't see one. The passing, the sharing of the basketball, the cutting that they have on offense, recognizing a teammate that's going to be open. It's beautiful basketball.
Our friends in Nesson can help us too. And you got the first Red Sox game at home today. But, Jack McGuire had a good tweet. Like how this happened. Storrs, Connecticut is in the middle of nowhere, and it's cold 80% of the time. And you go back, men's and women, what is it, like 17 titles since 1991? How did that happen? Like, how are they able to do this where Calhoun, Ollie, Hurley, and what REM has done?
Great question.
And what it's done for the university in that area. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's in the middle of nowhere.
It is.
And you know, why would you want to go there?
Right.
Nothing to do in the weather, and it's all, well, this is a powerhouse, and we've dominated basketball.
That's exactly right. And the Calhoun era is a long time ago at this point.
Yeah. More titles than Coach K. And also the Big East. That's 9 titles since 1999. That's also, Seton Hall won the NIT. Everyone's laughing at the committee. This league only got 3 teams in.
Right.
You know, the Big East continues to do well with what Villanova was able to do. Louisville got it with Patino, whenever that was, and then what Calhoun did and Ollie. So it's...
You will get some feedback from other fan bases because they love their programs and they're very loyal and passionate. You're going to get feedback from probably Kansas fans, Duke fans, and I can't think of any other fan bases right now. Maybe North Carolina, but they're all wrong. Like, the best program in college basketball for the last quarter century, if not more, has been Connecticut. You can't ignore that. There's no way you can even debate it at this point.
Right.
Over and over and over with different coaches. Last night's team, I don't know how numbers-wise now, when you go to KenPom anyway, this team is, and I know Gonzaga never won it, but their power rating is right there with that one-loss Gonzaga team. They're there with the 2015 Kentucky team. They're there with that 2008 Kansas team that won it all.
I'm with humans. I don't think anyone can touch 90, 91 UNLV.
I would say some of the teams from the 90s would
Kentucky,
beat this team.
The Kentucky team you
love?
love?
The Kentucky team, the UNLV team.
Well, the UNLV team that didn't win it, I mean, you had...
Oh, they were better, yeah.
Yeah, 4 guys went in the first round of the draft. And then, but just imagine a Duke game where officials got involved.
Well, here, this is mind-boggling. Brian Ives was maybe the tweet of the night.
Yes.
UConn has missed 32% of the NCAA tournaments played since 1999. They've also won 24% of the tournaments in that same time. Are you serious?
Yeah. So you asked me a month ago, is he going to give this rolling and nothing's going to be able to stop this guy? Because he doesn't need absurd talent. So now his comments after the game about, ask my wife, I'm happy. We got a lot. I want to defend the title here. So, I mean, Kentucky would have to throw so much money at him. But if he stays, he's just so good. I mean, it's not fair how well he's done that you don't have all this NBA talent and the guy blows every opponent out. And like he said, this is hard to do, and we're making it look easy.
Yeah.
So that's a part of the last 2 years. I'm like, well, they're not going to do this. They're not going to beat everybody by double digits, and then they did.
Well, and by the way, so they're going to lose some guys off this team. I'm guessing Castle will probably go to the NBA. It's considered one of, if not the weakest drafts by a lot of people, maybe ever. Mm-hmm. So a guy like Castle, why can't he go top 5 all of a sudden, or whatever number that might be? But he can't dominate in the transfer portal?
Oh, why wouldn't he?
Who would not want to go play for him?
Right, with that personality.
He's an axe murderer on the sidelines.
Sure.
You're going to have to deal with that.
Yeah.
Again, he's extremely unlikable if you don't root for UConn. He's all over the place. He's yelling, he's screaming the entire time. He's out there pushing players. He's emphatic with everything that he does.
Coming on the court.
He's going to be, people are going to hate him.
I know, but you said it after the Stetson game. But he was livid at halftime of the Stetson game.
Oh, yeah, and they're killing him by 100.
They're blowing them out. It's not championship basketball. I hate how we close, right? I don't like it. Sure.
Yeah.
How about what Edey did, though? Now, if there was ever a case to be made for a guy on a losing team, but most outstanding player, I mean, what he did down the stretch and with a 40 and 20, and then what he did last night, I mean, Edey was just so good. But you could also look at this. It's kind of like those great Yankee teams. Like, if you win 112 games, how do you have an MVP? Mm-hmm. That team is so good. I think it's hard to look at it and say, well, that guy sticks out. He should be the MVP.
It was a very tough call last night. Newton won it. He had 5 points against Illinois. I thought my bet on Klingon before the game at plus 190 still had a pretty good chance to win that thing because he was so good overall. Again, this is not a one-game award. It's for the entire tournament. But if ever we were going to have a player, again, on the losing team win it, it would have been Zach Edey. I mean, if you're honest about this, right, and you can remove the thought that the winning team has to have the MOP, just get that idea out of your brain for a second to have the conversation. I think most people would realize that Zach Edey deserved to win the award. Mm-hmm. I mean, he did not get much help from anybody else last night. He was the go-to guy the entire time. He had 37, put him on his shoulders one more time. And I will point this out. So Greg Doyle was there covering Purdue. He's a columnist in Indianapolis. He tweeted out his vote, and he also said that Edey at the time had 33 points and 10 rebounds. And he said another typical game for him should be the MOP of the tournament, win or lose, with a photo of his all-tournament vote. It was submitted, but Tristan Newton was number 1, then Zach Edey number 2. So that makes me think that based on him saying Edey should win, but he was only number 2, I don't think you're allowed to vote a losing player to win the award. Because here you have a voter saying he should win, but he's number 2 on his ballot because he can't put him any higher. Now, is that fair?
Yeah, I'm with you. We have to get rid of the stock process and mindset. It goes back to when the Cavs lost to the Warriors.
Oh, sure.
It was all LeBron James. That's the only reason the series was close.
100%, Paul.
The numbers that he put up.
Right.
So we have to stop with that.
Right. We've been trained to think that it automatically has to come off of a winning team. No, it doesn't. Why? Because you've been told so for so many years? BS. Challenge that. Doesn't have to be the case. Anybody watching the tournament from start to finish knows that Zach Edey was the most outstanding player of the tournament. Can't win the award. There is a lot at stake tonight and this week in the NBA. Every win total but 2 has been decided, and this team can get the 2 seed or, think about this, be in the play-in tournament. Details on that coming up next.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Start your morning with a daily dose of winning strategies, insider tips, and the latest buzz with the free VSiN daily newsletter. Today, Bill Adey previews the Masters straight to your inbox. Expert analysis, latest odds, vsin.com/newsletters. Subscribe. Nigel Seeley joins us now from Monte Carlo to talk Champions League and a big soccer card today, mixing a little tennis at Seeley_Nigel on X. He's on the Progressive guest line as well. He's with Premier Sports Plays. Good to talk to you, my friend. And now with the big card here, we'll get to in a second, but the Champions League quarters and the heavy hitters are out. The big boys are out. You know, thanks to the tweets from a couple of viewers that the first leg went 7-1 with the unders going back the last round. If you want to blindly bet it, let's start with Arsenal and Bayern Munich. 2.5 and Arsenal, $1.40.
Good morning to you. Good morning to you guys. Yeah,
I
mean, I think you've got 2 arguably the biggest matches of the season so far this evening, and you would think whoever comes through this section of the draw will win this season's Champions League. The Arsenal Bayern Munich game is going to be an interesting one this evening because it's the first time for many years that Arsenal will be involved in such a huge Champions League match. And Bayern Munich started off the season as the clear second favourites to win the Champions League. And they've had a disastrous season by their really good standards. They're not going to win their domestic title for the first time in many years. Their form has dropped. Apart from Harry Kane, I don't think there's been anyone in the Bayern Munich side who can say they've had a very good season. The manager, Thomas Tuchel, is under pressure. He's got to win the Champions League to keep himself in a job. So there's serious questions about this match. And I think the way you look at it, I think Bayern Munich have got to keep this tight. Arsenal will believe that the way that Bayern Munich are playing and conceding goals, they've lost their last 2 matches. They were 2-0 up against the relegation-threatened side at the weekend in the Bundesliga, and they lost the match 3-2. So Arsenal will believe that they can have this match over from the first leg. And if you speak to a lot of Arsenal supporters, that's what they believe this evening. I think that's a little bit... I expect Arsenal to win tonight, but I think we are really underrating Bayern Munich in the long term in this competition. I think that at home, Bayern Munich is still a very, very tough side to beat. I get what the listener and the viewer's point is there. Under 2.5 goals is a huge factor in a lot of the first leg matches. In every single Champions League matches, in first legs, you want to be going unders. Second legs, things go crazy. That's been the case for years. More so this evening, the weather in London, I've flown away from London, but the weather in London was absolutely dreadful. It was gale force winds. There was heavy rain, really bad weather conditions. So that will play into the under factor. And I do think Bayern Munich may come here with a tactic to frustrate. Thomas Tuchel is a manager that is renowned for going to places. He won the Champions League with Chelsea by going away and really frustrated the better players. He's tactically astute. In a one-off match, he is a manager that you have to respect. And I don't think there'll be a full guns blazing Bayern Munich side here. I do believe Arsenal will get the edge. If I was betting them, I'd probably take the -142 Arsenal to win it. But I do like the under 2.5 goals here. I'd probably go for an Arsenal 1-0 match. But anybody who thinks that this match is going to be over from leg one, I don't think that's the case. This was a hurt Bayern Munich side with a manager who knows how to win the competition. He knows how to set the team up. And I think that Arsenal might find it's a tough nut to crack in what is that they're not used to this. This is a young Arsenal side that have never had Champions League experience at this level in the quarterfinal in their careers. And they're involved in a domestic title race as well. Let's not forget that. They've got some huge matches coming up in the race with Liverpool. So the market is, to me, it's disrespectful for Bayern Munich. But I think over 2 legs, this will be a lot closer than you'll suggest. But I do think Arsenal will edge it tonight. I would be going unders rather than overs, but probably only a lean for me on those prices because I don't think Arsenal have much value at the -142. I think there's better bets to have.
All right, how about you talk about heavyweights here? The thing is a quarterfinal match. How about Real Madrid and Man City in the other one?
Oh well, this is going to be a crazy match. The Real Madrid stadium this evening, we played with the roof on. I think it's one of the first times ever in the Champions League they've played with their roof on. But I'm not quite sure how it's going to impact the goals market here. But when you talk about first legs and being unders betters, these two played in the 2022-2023 semi-final, 4-0. They played in the 21-22 semi-final. The first leg was 3-1. They played in the round of 16 in 2019 and 2020. It was 2-1. Those last 3 matches in the first leg all cashed overs. Man City have a huge defensive crisis tonight. Massive that they are without 3 or 4 key defenders. And they've got some very inexperienced players who are going to go up some world-class talent. Vinicius Junior, the Brazilian winger, is probably the best in the world in this position. Jude Bellingham is from the top goal scorer in La Liga this season. So I think the Man City side here will be very, very happy with a draw this evening. And I think they'll like to get them back to the Etihad and do the business. So I really like Real Madrid to get something from this match. Real Madrid this season domestically have played 15 matches at home in their domestic league. They've won 13, drawn 2, lost none. They've only conceded 7 goals. They've scored 37 in that period. In the Champions League, they played 8 matches, won 7, drawn 1. So I think Man City, so again, I don't know how much Real Madrid have already won their league. You know, they can't lose the league. They're so far clear. They're going to win the domestic title again in Spain. But Man City are involved in an epic title race with Liverpool, with Arsenal. So I think that's going to be on their minds as well. You know, players have got big games at the weekend. So I think if Man City can come back with a draw here, they've done well. They will probably accept a narrow defeat. And I think the best bet on the night on the Champions League for this evening is Real Madrid on the draw no bet market at even money. It's a push if Real Madrid don't win it. But if Real Madrid have to win this match, they've got an injury-ravished Man City defence to go at in front of an expectant home crowd. And you've got to remember, they are unbeaten at home this season in domestically and in European football with a great record of, I think it's 20 wins and 4 draws, I think, in all competitions. And you can bet them at even money and get a push if it's a draw. I think Real Madrid will get something this evening from that match.
All right, 4 minutes left. We got some more plays to get to. You really like Atletico Madrid tomorrow against Dortmund?
Yeah, I do. I think Atletico Madrid. I think Dortmund are probably one of the weakest team in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid at home are formidable. They're very, very good defensively. They know how to grind out results. I can't see Dortmund scoring. -125. Atletico Madrid is a standout price for me. I don't believe that price will be there come kickoff time. And if you want some more juice in your price, take Atletico Madrid to win to 0 because that's what Atletico Madrid do in these big matches. The manager, Diego Simeone, very rarely loses these semi-finals, and at home they're phenomenal as well. So Real Madrid to win to 0 is a decent bet here. At home this season, Atletico Madrid 13 wins, 1 draw, 1 defeat, and that was against Real Madrid. So they are very hard to beat at home, and I think Dortmund, the weakest team, will be found wanting there. Not by a big margin. Under's definitely the way to go. But if you're looking for a correct score angle, 1-0, 2-0 Atletico Madrid. But probably the banker -125 in the Champions League.
All the lower leagues in action today. Let's go to League One, 2 plays. How about this? Remember, we were betting the under every game. Cheltenham Town. They couldn't forget about winning a match. They couldn't score to start the first 15 games. Give us 2 plays in League One and one involving Cheltenham.
Yeah, I think this could be a nice parlay for anybody. I think Charlton are a side that I've mentioned on this show previously. They've got a new manager in Nathan Jones. They're unbeaten under manager, a run now extending 11 games since he came in. They're a side already on my radar for next season. They're up against the Wigan team who started the season minus 8 points with an 8-point deficit. They were the bookies' favourites for the drop with those minus 8 points. They've survived comfortably, and you can see from their recent performances that they've got their minds on next season when they think they may be able to go for promotion. I think Charlton here will want to maintain this unbeaten record under the new manager. I think they'll beat Wigan tonight minus 110. They won very well at the weekend against Barnsley, a team at the top of the table. And also in the division, you said Cheltenham there. Cheltenham at the beginning of the season didn't score in their first 15 matches. That was in league and cup competition. Everybody they were minus $10, I think it was minus 8,000 to get relegated, or minus 800 to get relegated. 1,800 was crazy price to get relegated. They could get a win tonight. They can go out of the relegation zone, and they place a team in Carlisle who are already relegated. Carlisle have nothing to play for the remainder of the season. They're going to give some kids a chance. They look at players for next year. I think Cheltenham have done the impossible and given themselves a chance and a win tonight, and they could probably stay in the division. So they're minus 142. May not be a price that some people would like to take. They probably want a bit bigger price, but parlay them up. Charlton to beat Wigan in League One and Cheltenham to beat Carlisle also in League One.
60 seconds. Anything from Monte Carlo with the tennis?
I want to fake Novak Djokovic. I'm hearing he's not 100% fit. He's got a tough match today against Safin. Safin could beat him today. Safin plus 1.5 set. It's been heavy rain today as well, and the players just come out to play. Not going to suit Djokovic. He always comes here cold, hasn't played on clay, takes a bit of time to tune up, even when he was at his peak. Now at his age, is not his peak. I think Carlos Alcaraz, with these wet conditions, is the man to beat in the tournament. So Carlos Alcaraz for me to win it, and a fade on Novak Djokovic.
Great to talk to you. We'll catch up with you soon and go over this great Premier League race later in the week. Thank you, sir.
Take care, guys.
All right, Nigel Seeley, VSiN Pro contributor on the Progressive Guest Line. Atletico Madrid tomorrow. Real Madrid today, draw no bet. And League One, Cheltenham Town and Charlton. Loaded schedule today in soccer.
Love the analysis from him.
Yeah.
Every time. Up next, when this guy speaks, I listen. He has gone against popular opinion in the past and turned out to be right on several different occasions. He has another strong opinion for this year's NFL draft, and you're going to want to hear this. Coming up next on Follow the Money, it's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Paulie Howard on VSiN.
Good to have you on board here on Follow the Money, VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. This show is brought to you by DraftKings. Starting this hour off, talking NBA. We have less than a week to go now in the sport. So much still up in the air. Seeding, divisions, playoff matchups based on what's going to happen. And VSiN's senior NBA analyst, Jonathan Von Tobel, joins the program now. His show is called VSiN Primetime with Tim Murray, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. out here on the West Coast. JBT, good morning. How are you?
I'm good, guys. Last week of the regular season, we get the play-in starting next week, so I'm very excited. Everything's starting to ramp up. This is why you lift all them weights, right, to finally get to this point. So can't wait to see how it all plays out.
And Jonathan Von Tobel here is on the Progressive Guest Line. There's running hot, there's running cold, and then there's running like the Milwaukee Bucks. Their current form, going back like 30 years, no joke. It's as bad as you can get. Losing all those games in a row as a 10-plus point favorite. Backing that up with a bad loss against the Knicks. They're a 2-point home dog tonight against the Celtics, who, that's good luck guessing who's going to play and who's going to sit for Boston now that they're a 15-game lead, obviously, in the Eastern Conference.
Oh, yeah.
And I've watched the Bucks play a lot this year. JBT, they're just not good. They're not a good basketball team. What do you make of this number tonight?
Yeah, and I think to your point, too, about Boston, right? Let's go back to Friday where they're leading by 19 over Sacramento, and Joe Mazzulla with 6.5 minutes left is like, yeah, let's we'll call it a day, guys. And empties the bench and then lets them get run on. And even says after the game, like, I thought it was a good experience for him. Like, it's if you want to get into this with Boston, good luck to you, because that one on Friday night kind of got me off of the Celtics moving forward. Because like you said, they have nothing to play for. They have everything salted away. You don't know what these late game rotations are going to be like. So if you like Boston, maybe some first half to avoid that. And for the Bucks, look, they're questionable, or Giannis Antetokounmpo is questionable today, so we don't know if he's going to be out there. And I think that kind of leads into what we've seen here. I want to give them the benefit of the doubt in that they're better than those 3 losses as double-digit favorites, right? Damian Lillard hasn't been playing. That loss against the New York Knicks, Chris Middleton gets a tooth knocked out in the first half. They're up by 11. They fall apart there in the second half. There hasn't been any continuity. But having said that, Mitch, to your overall point, the perimeter defense doesn't look good. Patrick Beverley is not going to fix those issues once you get into the postseason. And even without a guy like Damian Lillard on the floor, you shouldn't be losing outright to teams like Toronto, Washington, and Memphis consecutively if you're going to be a team that has title aspirations. I mean, you look at a team like Boston that they're going to play today, guys. Jaylen Brown could sit this game out, and the line will move like a point because they are just so freaking good and so deep. And that should not be happening if you have the aspirations to beat that team. So as far as today, I think there's a lot of unknowns. Kristaps Porzingis and Al Horford are questionable as well for Boston. So you could have a pretty thin front court. You want to wait till that's out in valid to see what the injury report's going to be like. But as far as Milwaukee's concerned, I think it's very fair to have those criticisms of them. And then, by the way, they could slip to 3 and face a Pacers team that they are 1-4 against this season. It could be really bad for them.
You celebrate and dance when Griffin gets fired. And you're 17 games over 500. Now you're 2 games under 500 with Doc Rivers, and he's called you out twice, and it still hasn't worked. So they are a mess. To tie it in, what's your most interesting or wild seeding scenario here? Because the Bucks have been so bad. Miami and Philadelphia are probably sitting like, I don't care if we play Milwaukee or Orlando in the 7-2. Now you'll probably play each other in the 7-8, but if you can win that game, and Indiana has just about all the tiebreakers over everyone. What are you looking at with interesting scenarios there?
Yeah, for me, it's the top of the list. It's the East, Paul, right? Because Milwaukee, you mentioned all the tiebreaker scenarios. Milwaukee still has 2 games left to Orlando to end the regular season. So that's going to sort itself out. Indiana's got the head-to-head tiebreaker with Milwaukee. And, of course, the other teams like New York and Orlando. So, like, all of a sudden, you could see this weird jumbled mess where you're seeing Orlando finish as high as 2. The Knicks could finish as low as 6, like, or 7 or 8 even technically. Like, there's so many different ways that this thing could play out. And for me, that's the most fascinating part about this. And then mixed into all of that is the Cleveland Cavaliers, who cannot get anything going at all because of health, the way that they're playing. They look absolutely abhorrent. So if you were to get Orlando to finish as high as 2, right? And if you get Milwaukee to end up in this like 4-5 matchup potentially, or 3-6, as we talked about with Indiana, for me, that's the most fascinating dynamic because especially it's not even just about the first round, guys. Remember, a lot of these teams, of course, they want to stay away from Boston at the very least to avoid them until Eastern Conference Finals berth, especially Milwaukee. So that's, to me, the most fascinating dynamic is what's going to happen in the East with all of these teams. And that includes this Philly-Miami dynamic, which seems pretty likely it's going to be Philly-Miami in an Eastern Conference play-in with Philly playing host. But that thing could change as well. So I think for me, it's the way the Eastern Conference shakes out. I know we're all focused on the West, but the East looks incredible in terms of the way that these teams could finish out.
Yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun. How about the big game tonight in Los Angeles, the Lakers taking on the Warriors? Were you the thoughts on the game, but also were you ticked off and perturbed? We're in Scottsdale watching the game. LeBron's great. They beat the Cavs. Then he gets sick and doesn't play the next night.
Yeah, just a bad beat to get the flu an hour before the game, huh? It's terrible. I hate when that happens. Yeah. I played this game over at a little bit of a lower number, and I think if you're getting to like 230, like 4, or a little bit better than that, I think it's still playable. These two teams, I think, just have answers to each other defensively, right? The Warriors are playing Trace Jackson-Davis at center, and those lineups have been very good defensively, but they don't really have the size to compete, of course, with LeBron James and Anthony Davis. And on the flip side, the Lakers have been so much better on offense, guys, but they've sacrificed their defense for that. If you look at post All-Star break, just 22nd in non-garbage time defensive efficiency and playing at a very quick pace. Both of these teams are going to get up and down the floor. Market opened up 232.5. We're up to 235. Again, I think like 234 is playable over still here, but I played this thing over. But I can't wait to see what's going to happen because this is obviously potentially a play-in game that we're going to see in the Western Conference. And what do these teams choose to show one another today? And then how that translates, of course, to a play-in, because you could make the argument that because it's so likely they're going to play each other, you're going to get pretty vanilla with some of the sets that you're going to run out here tonight. So I can't wait to see what's going to transpire. And it's also interesting, too, because you see the market sometimes as some of these faux playoff games, right? Like this is one of them where things are at stake. The market will treat it as that and bet these things under. I go back to those Kings-Mavericks games. If you guys remember, they've had that baseball set in Sacramento. Those games, the market went under on those, ended up going over. But the market's kind of taking the opposite approach here, and I would agree with that. I think you're going to get a high-scoring affair between two teams that I don't think can really stop each other.
Okay. What are some of your other best bets that you have? It's a loaded card. What do we have, 14 games on the slate tonight?
Yeah, so I think taking Miami starting to flash to 4. I think that's a viable number here on Atlanta. Quietly, the Atlanta Hawks guys have been playing pretty well post Trae Young injury.
On Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, because I think Atlanta here, post Trae Young injury, they've gotten a little bit better. And I don't think it's anti-Trae Young. It's more just about when you have one guard in control of everything, I think that makes it a lot better. And then, of course, you have DeJounte Murray and all these other guys a little bit more defensive oriented at home since the Trae Young injury. Guys are 8-2, straight up and against the spread, one of the best net ratings in the NBA, non-garbage time, post All-Star break and post Trae Young injury. So just playing better. They have a winning ATS record. And I've watched a little bit of Miami here the last couple of weeks. Their offense, yes, they get Tyler Hero back, but it hasn't been as consistent. I think the market might be a little high. So again, 4s are starting to pop. If you get a 4, I think that's a playable number there for Atlanta. And then the other 2 later today, I might be in for more pain. I might do this. I haven't decided yet, but the Clippers are circled for me. 7.5 is pretty high. Because here's the thing, the number's just a little high for me, Paul.
Yeah. I don't know why what'd they think? Why did it open?
Exactly.
Kawhi wasn't going to play anyways. I don't.
That's my thought. I don't know why you saw this open as low as it did against and skyrocket this high. We knew Kawhi wasn't going to play. We've known for some time. Now, I will say, the market's been really high on Phoenix, especially lately. It's bet them pretty consistently. It's got their power rating pretty high because of some recent success. They closed at about 6.5-point favorites against New Orleans the other day. They lost that game. So I just tend to look at the Clippers as this team that I think we're kind of sleeping on in general. Guys, they have won 8 out of their last 11 games. They've looked a little bit better. They've started to put things together on defense. So for me, it's not a play yet, but I think I'm going to see what the market does. If we start to climb to 8, I think that's a playable number there for the LA Clippers.
Let's go back to something we said earlier and tie it into the awards market. So you still have Denver hosts Minnesota tomorrow, huge game for the 1 seed, and then Orlando could actually get the 2. What do you think is going to happen with the coach of the year? Because Daigneault was as high as $5, OKC coach. He's now down to minus 220, and Mosley was 40-1. Now he's 5-1, and Finch is 3-1. So what do you think will happen? If Minnesota's the 2, OKC's the 3, and Orlando's a 2 or a 3, what do you think voters will do?
I think that if you're going to play this, I think you're looking at Mosley. I think, just taking in some NBA media guys, Mosley's name has been coming up quite a bit for Coach of the Year, and he deserves a ton of credit. Like you mentioned, the way that he could finish this season in terms of the standings and finish as high as 2 or 3. It's also, and I think this was brought up by Zach Lowe or Brian Windhorst on their podcast, but the ability to get a group of guys that are kind of offensive oriented. I mean, you look at it like Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, some of these guys, and get them to buy in defensively and be one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. I think it's a really, really good feather in the cap for Mosley in terms of what he can do with this team. This team's way ahead of schedule. Their win total was, in the 30s, right? And here you are pushing for potentially 49 wins here this season. That's huge for Orlando. So I think Mosley's really, really live. I understand, I love Mark Daigneault. I think he's an awesome coach, deserves a ton of credit. But these last few games could decide that in a really big way. And the way that he's gotten a team filled with some offensive-oriented dudes to really buy in defensively, I think that's going to go a long way to get Mosley to potentially win this award. I think if you haven't bet this yet, I think there's total value on him to win that thing. Because we could also see a scenario, by the way, because we've seen the madness before. Go back, was it 2 or 3 years ago now, where Thibodeau stole that thing from Monty Williams with more second-place votes, right? That's something that can happen here because it's so tight.
In about a minute here, is Wemby live? Would you take, what is he, still 10, 11-1 in some spots to win Defensive Player of the Year?
I think he's still live. When you have big name voices like Brian Windhorst kind of putting it out there hey, I might vote for him. I think the probability of him winning this award is larger than what the market would say. I also say, though, really quickly, that while I think that he is more live, I do think that we should be careful not discounting Rudy Gobert. He is very, very impactful as a defender. And I think we've kind of swung too far in one direction where we're acting like it's some travesty if he were to win this award, when I don't think that's the case. If you were to tell me either one of these guys won this award, I would be fine in either respect. But I do think from a probability standpoint, Victor Wembanyama has more of an odds or more of a probability of winning this award than 10-1 would indicate, yes.
You can catch Jonathan Von Telbo's show with Tim Murray in the afternoons or early evening, depends on where you live. It's called VSiN Prime Time, 6 p.m. Eastern and 3 p.m. out here on the Pacific time zone. JVT joined us on the Progressive guest line. Thanks, pal. Good luck tonight.
Thanks a lot, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Up next, we'll recap last night's betting action with Win Some, Lose Some. This is Follow the Money on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Limited time offering 2 weeks of our exclusive betting splits for free. Just sign up, vsin.com/splits. It's updated with DraftKings odds every 5 minutes. You can check out future events as well. Take advantage of this limited time offer, vsin.com/splits. Get your free 2-week access. Get it now, vsin.com/splits.
This week is so strong. Every year on the sports calendar, we go from the Final Four and the national title game right into the Masters. And Brentley Romine is kind enough to join us here early on a Tuesday to give us his preview of this great event. Golf writer at the Golf Channel, NBC Sports. He's on the Progressive Guest Line. Brentley, good morning. How are you?
Good morning. Top of the morning to you.
Yeah,
I'm doing great.
Back at you.
Never a bad day when you're at Augusta National for the Masters.
Yeah.
No.
There you go.
I know my co-host Paulie here. He's obsessed with the menu that you can get. I'm obsessed with the prices. He's obsessed with the food. Like, what have you had so far already this year? What's your go-to item every year? You have to have it when you're at the Masters.
Well, I feel like among the sandwiches, you can't go wrong with the egg salad. You got to try the pimento cheese at least once. But my go-to is definitely the egg salad. Prices are incredible. But then you got to top it off with a Georgia peach ice cream sandwich. We didn't have it a couple of years ago because of what people believe to be the supply chain issues. I think the Georgia peach ice cream or something like that, they couldn't get it, but it made a roaring return last year. And I've already had about 2 or 3. It's on like a nice little sugar cookie. And it's so good. I mean, it's amazing.
If I gave you $20, you would get like 7 of those?
Yeah, I think they're like $2. I don't know. We're fortunate that we don't have to pay, so it's $3.99 for us. But yeah, I think they're like $2 or $3. So yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong getting like 6 or 7 of those for sure.
Yeah, they sound amazing.
Good for you.
Yeah,
you're living the dream.
No kidding. Okay, so of all the stats that you look at for this event, and I've read a bunch of previews so far, the trends over the years, important things that need to be considered. Like, what to you stands out? What's the most important thing or two that you really file away leading into this event for guys that you maybe want to pick to win?
Yeah, I mean, this is kind of a no-brainer. Obviously, when you talk about Augusta being a second shot golf course, I mean, strokes gained approach the green is kind of a stat that everyone gravitates towards. I like to maybe expand it a little bit and look at proximity to the hole normally, because it just shows like if a guy's ranks high in both of those, like they can hit their spots. I mean, it's so important on these greens too, because depending on where you land it, like your ball could repel like from the green, or you could use a slope to get close to the hole. So I think that's huge, but I think it's a stat that no one really talks about that much is strokes gained around the greens. Because again, these greens are hard to hit. No one's hitting a lot of greens. So you have to have a good short game. You got to leave yourself in the right spots. And 15 of the last 17 winners have all been in the top 10 in scrambling. I know it's not a strokes gain statistic, but yeah, I mean, you can't go wrong with a guy like Hideki Matsuyama this year, who leads the tour in strokes gain around the green, and is an incredible ball striker. And you know what? He's won one of these. He has a green jacket in the closet here, gets to use the champions locker room. So yeah, those are just a few stats, but at the same time, I mean, course history is so important too. There's several factors that go in it, and if I had all the answers, I wouldn't be, I'd be in a different field. I'd be in Vegas or something.
Yeah, right. As an expert, how about the timing with what JT did in making the change with the caddy?
Yeah, that was a little bit shocking to me. I had heard some rumblings after Valspar that their time together could be short. That being with JT and Bones. But I didn't think that something would happen before the Masters, because when you think about Bones and being on Phil's bag for all those years, like, he has winning experience here and he knows so much about this golf course. I mean, heck, he was even a on-course reporter for us last week for the Augusta National Women's Amateur. So I was pretty surprised by that. But at the same time, like, if something's not working out, it's better just to kind of cut ties. There's no use in JT going on another week just because he wants Bones for, the Masters. And you know what? Who's to say this wasn't Bones' decision either? I mean, it could have been Bones saying, you know what? Okay. This isn't working for me. We don't know that yet. But I don't know if 100% certainty that it was totally JT. It could have been mutual as well.
I think we kind of forget about the live guys and they're off to the side, but certainly the history with what Koepka's done here in majors. How do you feel and like about his game right now?
Yeah, I mean, if you throw out the 2 missed cuts that he had here because of his knee and not being 100% health-wise, I mean, he's got 2 tied for second finishes. I mean, he's been in the mix. Last year, he had the lead after Sunday morning going into that final round, and Rahm caught him and passed him. But yeah, Brooks is one of those guys. I know he didn't have a great event last week at Doral for Live Miami, but again, I mean, this is no news flash, but the guy basically lives for 4 weeks a year, and that's the major championship. So I mean, like you can't discredit him for a bad performance last week. I think if you're talking live guys, I mean, you got to look at a Joaquin Niemann who earned himself a special invitation into this week after a stellar last few months in which he's won the Aussie Open and won on live. Like he's someone to certainly watch. He's a former low amateur here as well. Patrick Reed's probably someone who has good history around this course, has a green jacket. Dustin Johnson, although he's a bit of a wild card, I think a super risky play in terms of, fantasy or betting or whatever people do, either their Masters pools with their buddies. He's kind of a risky play, but yeah, I mean, those are kind of the 4 that I look at, and, I'm sure I'm missing. Obviously John Rahm too.
Sure.
You can't forget about the reigning green jacket winner.
What is your outlook for this event this year for Rory, and where do you expect him to finish come Sunday?
I'm not super high on Rory this week, and maybe it's just kind of the fatigue of wanting him to complete that Grand Slam and feeling like this is his best chance year after year, and so maybe kind of him flying under the radar a little bit, at least in my mind, may lead to a winning week for him. But just a lot of changes. I mean, going to see Butch Harmon and not getting here into town until today, kind of ramping up his schedule, playing a lot more on the PGA Tour in the last few months to start the year than he normally has. Played last week at Valero. Going back to the stats, I mean, his strokes gained approach the green is the lowest I think it's been, or if not ever been, heading into this week. So there are some serious concerns about Rory, but maybe that's what he needs. I mean, last year in his pre-tournament presser, I mean, he'll talk today at 12:30 Eastern time, but last year he just talked about like wanting it so much, and like he just gets in his head so much because he just wants it so badly, and so maybe having lower expectations this time around and doing things a little bit differently will help. I know that miscut last year stung him really bad. I mean, we saw that in the Netflix doc too. Like that was one of the lowest points of his career. Just leaving here that week after so many high expectations. But just hopefully flying under the radar for him a little bit will help.
You think Tiger will make the cut?
Well, I mean, there's only 89 guys in the field, right? The top 15 ties make the cut, and you got a handful of past champions like Fred Couples and Jose Maria Olazabal, Vijay Singh. Those guys are kind of destined, I think, to trunk slam on Friday. So I think Tiger could sneak in there. I mean, again, like if you would ask me in 2019, was he going to win? I would have said like absolutely not.
Mm-hmm.
But I'd probably say that this year, like absolutely not. He's not going to win. But I could see him sticking around 4 days, and hopefully, his body holds up, and we don't have a repeat of what we saw last year, where he's withdrawing 7 holes into his 3rd round, and then he's having surgery just a few weeks later. So I think anything's going to be an improvement for that if he can get in 72 holes.
So Brentley, we have 90 seconds here. Ultimately, who is your pick to win this year?
This guy's burned me way too often, but I think Xander Schauffele. It's kind of one of those things like Scotty is the overwhelming favorite, and on the spot, like I'd pick him, but to go a little bit different, be a contrarian, I think this is the moment when Xander finally gets it done.
Okay, very good. You can follow Brentley on X. He's at BrentleyGC. Does a great job for the Golf Channel, NBC Sports as well. Brentley, thanks so much for the time. Enjoy the entire week.
Awesome. I'm going to go get one of those ice cream sandwiches. Got me hungry.
Tweet it out, please.
Yes.
I want to see video of it. I want to see
Yes.
what it looks like. Yeah, I got to get my hands on
Right.
one of those one time. Thank you.
Yep.
Oh, he loves it. I mean,
Give
this
him
is-
$20. He's going to get he joins
Yeah,
us in the
that's what he
Progressive
said.
Guest Line.
He mentioned Butch Harmon, and everyone loves the history, the course. But I tell you, the security does a great job, and I know I talked to Butch Harmon about it, and he can't stand Baba Booey, mashed potatoes,
Who can?
getting the hole on a tee shot on a par 5. None of that happens. You do it, you're out. They come right in.
That's
Take care of
the
you.
way it should be
And they do an excellent job.
at every golf
And it's-
course in the world.
Yep.
Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. In Pocket Plays, our best bets coming up here.